Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're focusing on something huge. I mean, a truly monumental turning point. If you've just paid off that last bill, if you've zeroed out those accounts and you are, officially debt-free, first of all, congratulations. That is just a colossal achievement. But our sources today reveal something really fascinating and honestly, a pretty surprising truth. That financial milestone, it isn't the finish line. It's actually more like the starting pistol for a whole new race. The massive structure that debt provided, the budget, the focus, the urgency, it just vanishes. You pay off the bills, you get that initial rush of relief, and then you just slam into this crossroads of, okay, now what?
That abrupt transition is so real and it can be really destabilizing. Our mission for this deep dive is really to map that path beyond the financial math. We're pulling together knowledge to help you shift from, let's call it, debt survival mode to intentional freedom mode. We've looked at sources like Beyond Debt, The Intentional Path to Wealth and Security, and we've pulled out the most impactful ideas. This isn't about new spreadsheets. It's about identity. It's about emotional transformation and building the lasting architecture of a truly free life.
So we're really getting into the human element of this. Let's start right there in that immediate aftermath. Okay, so let's unpack this initial emotional reality. You expect, pure, unadulterated relief. And it's definitely there, that feeling of a physical weight just lifting off your shoulders. But the research we looked at, it tells a different story. It says that relief comes bundled with some really unexpected, complex feelings.
Yeah, the sources actually describe this phase as the emotional roller coaster. And it happens really fast. You have the relief, but almost immediately your mind, which has been in crisis mode for years, it just struggles to switch off. So you encounter this acute fear.
Fear of what?
Fear that you'll spend carelessly and slip back, or fear of losing the control that really strict budget dictated. We also see a lot of guilt or doubt, a sense of, questioning if the past struggle was necessary or maybe if you could have done it faster. But the most counterintuitive finding, and this is detailed heavily in Beyond Debt, is the spike in anxiety. One study they tracked showed that nearly 40% of newly debt-free individuals felt increased anxiety or even emptiness in the first 6 months.
Hang on. Increased anxiety. That sounds completely backward. I mean, why would having more resources, more money, lead to more worry?
It's a great question, and it's because debt provided structure, however painful that structure was. For so many people, the due dates, the constant budgeting sessions, all that financial vigilance, it served as these mechanical anchors for their routine. And when those anchors are just suddenly gone, you have all this quiet space, all this extra time you aren't used to filling, and your brain registers that as a threat. It's an uncharted path.
Wow. So the debt itself became a sort of a perverse routine. So we need strategies then to navigate that sudden quiet and structure it mindfully.
Precisely. First, you have to pause and reflect. You have to truly acknowledge the achievement, not just rush past it. But then, when you reward wisely, it is absolutely crucial to make that reward reinforce your new identity. Don't fall back into old consumption habits. The sources really suggest choosing rewards that symbolize your growth, not just your spending power.
Okay, can you give me an example of that? A reward that reinforces the identity?
Absolutely. So instead of buying, say, a new gadget, the expert advice is to fund a certification course or pay for a high-end financial coaching session. Or maybe you purchase a top-tier piece of equipment for a hobby you want to turn into a side business. These choices reinforce the idea that you are now a capable, confident wealth builder, not just a consumer with extra cash.
That's a really key distinction. And I guess to really bridge that void, you have to create a freedom plan in advance. Don't wait until the money's just sitting in your checking account. Decide right now how the funds that used to go to debt will be automatically allocated to saving or investing or specific goals. That intentional plan becomes your new anchor.
Exactly. And that brings us to the next really critical piece. If the first part was about the immediate emotional reality, this section is all about cementing the internal narrative, because the external chains, the debt, are gone, but the internal chains, that self-image, they often linger.
That old identity, I'm the person who owes money. Or even worse, I'm just bad with money.
Exactly. And this lingering identity is where the real sabotage happens. If you still subconsciously believe you're bad with money, what happens? You hesitate when a good investment opportunity comes up. Or you might subconsciously make poor spending choices because deep down, you just don't trust yourself to handle abundance. The transformation has to move from scarcity and survival into confidence and empowerment.
This is where Beyond Debt introduces that concept of rewriting the money story. This is where it gets really interesting for me. First, you have to recognize those limiting beliefs, or like that little voice in your head, right? Money is inherently stressful, or I always fall behind, or maybe that really insidious one, only certain people deserve true abundance.
Hmm.
Just being aware of that is the critical first step.
And this isn't just, fluffy self-help. This is practical psychology.
Hmm.
Once you identify them, you challenge those beliefs. You question their validity. You replace them with empowering, concrete statements. So, for instance, replacing "I'm always behind" with "I am capable and confident with money," or maybe "I create abundance responsibly and joyfully."
So it's like we're installing new operating software. How do we make sure that new software actually sticks? Because just saying affirmations can feel kind of performative if you don't really believe them deep down.
We use structured action. The sources really emphasize this. One very powerful method is using visualization exercises. And it's not just imagining being debt-free. You have to imagine the specifics of your debt-free self. For example, you visualize the texture of the bank statement that shows positive growth. You feel the calm in your chest when you review your budget. Maybe you can smell the new uncluttered office where you handle your finances. When you engage all your senses like that, it makes the future self tangible. It makes it easier for your brain to accept it as a reality.
That level of detail, that's what makes the difference. It moves it from just an idea to actual internal programming.
The other necessary tool is the letter to your debt-free self. You write this detailed description of your new life, and not just financial goals, but your ideal habits, your mindset, your daily routines. And maybe most importantly, you list 3 traits you commit to embodying now: disciplined, confident, generous, and then you track daily actions that prove those traits. If you want to be disciplined, what's one small thing you did today to prove it? This continuous alignment is how you reinforce that identity change.
Okay, so moving from mindset to muscle memory, that focus on tracking small, consistent steps, that leads us right to the engine of lasting freedom, which is habits. These are the invisible architecture that replaces those reactive high-stress habits you had in debt survival mode.
Yes, and the danger is replacing the debt-paying routine with no routine. Freedom is all about intentional structure. The sources are really clear that we have to move beyond just cliche habit advice. So the first principle is still start small, build gradually, but we have to couple that with systems, not just willpower. Automating your savings transfers, scheduling specific time to reflect, setting calendar reminders, all of this removes the need for daily decision making. That's where willpower always fails. The goal is to make the right choice the automatic, easy choice.
That makes so much sense. Our brain only has so much decision-making power in a day. Let the system handle the finances so you can use your mental energy for your purpose-driven goals. But let's address the elephant in the room here. Consistency. We all miss days.
This is a critical point. The sources address this specifically with a technique they call the 72-hour rule. They emphasize, if you miss a day of your new habit, whether it's tracking expenses or a 5-minute meditation, you absolutely must return to it within 72 hours. This prevents a single missed day from spiraling into total relapse, which is so often the death of new routine.
That is so practical and specific. It gives you a hard boundary for failure. So what specific habits should someone who's newly debt-free prioritize, like right now, to replace that old reactive scrambling?
We'd recommend prioritizing 3 distinct areas immediately. Financially, it's not just about a monthly budget, it's daily or weekly expense tracking, even if it's automated, and automatic transfers to savings and investment accounts on payday. You have to make the payment to your future self mandatory. Then beyond money, you need energy for this new life. In health and wellness, it's about establishing consistent sleep routines and integrating daily movement, even just a 10-minute walk. And finally, for personal growth, it's carving out time for daily reading or reflection and, crucially, setting weekly non-financial goals to keep your purpose central. These are the fuel rods for your enduring freedom.
So we've cemented the identity. We've built the engine with habits. Now we need the map. The sources warn that without a comprehensive plan, freedom can just feel directionless, and that leads to goal paralysis. This is why the intentional path to wealth and security outlines what it calls the Freedom Lifestyle Plan.
And this blueprint, it has to integrate your finances with your life purpose. So it includes your detailed financial roadmap for, say, 3, 5, and 20 years out. But it also mandates a health and wellness strategy, and that goes beyond just dieting. It defines routines for managing your mental well-being and your stress. Most importantly, it requires purpose-driven goals. This is where you intentionally align your daily actions and all your now available resources with your core passions, your strengths, and your values. If you value family connection, your plan has to include scheduled, meaningful time for those relationships.
And the structure that holds all this up is the freedom budget. This isn't that oppressive, restrictive budget you used when you were managing debt. This is a blueprint for intentional living. Every single dollar now has to align with your values and your purpose. The core principle is simple, but it's so powerful. Allocate money with purpose. The sources suggest breaking the budget into 4 intentional buckets. You've got essentials, which are your needs, savings and investments for future growth, discretionary spending for joy and hobbies, and finally, giving or contribution.
And that last bucket, giving, is psychologically essential. And you might ask why. It's because the scarcity mindset is so powerful, even after you've paid off your debt. Intentionally allocating money to contribute to others or to causes you care about is a powerful daily reminder that you're operating from a position of abundance and control. And that directly counters the old scarcity programming.
So it's not just a charitable act, it's a financial affirmation of your new reality. This structure makes sure you're balancing enjoyment and self-care with long-term growth and always prioritizing those sinking funds for predictable expenses, Christmas or car repairs, so you never have to go back into crisis mode. Now that the foundation is set, let's talk about turning that financial freedom into lasting security, making sure your money is finally working for you, not just sitting still. Chapter 5 lays out a really clear 3-tiered priority structure for saving and investing.
And the sequencing here is just non-negotiable for true peace of mind. First and foremost, you secure the emergency fund. This buffer has to be robust. We're talking 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an accessible, high-yield savings account. That provides the ultimate psychological safety net. Second, you fund the sinking funds. These are targeted savings accounts for planned, predictable expenses. Your annual insurance premium, the car you know you'll need to replace in 3 years, or that major travel goal. Treating these predictable things as monthly savings goals removes all that stress and it eliminates the surprise factor.
And once those 2 layers of security are locked in, then we can move to the big one, long-term growth. This is where consistent automated contributions to investment accounts, retirement funds, brokerage accounts, index funds, that becomes the rule. The sources stress that diversification and consistency are the engines here. You set it, you automate it, and you let compounding do the heavy lifting. It just reinforces the fact that your financial success is now systematic, not dependent on manual effort.
And this systematic approach to finance, it connects beautifully to the final concept we want to talk about, simplicity. When we talk about enduring freedom, we're talking about reducing your cognitive load. The less clutter you have, physical, financial, or digital, the more mental energy you have for your purpose-driven goals.
And this is where you conduct your freedom audit. This audit asks you to identify what no longer serves the debt-free you, and you do it across 4 key areas. In the home, that means decluttering physical spaces, getting rid of items that were bought impulsively or that just drain your energy. In your finances, it's simplifying accounts, automating every single bill you possibly can, eliminating complexity. Digitally, it's a ruthless inbox cleanup and limiting notifications. Schedule-wise, it's learning to say no to commitments that don't align with your new intentional life. Simplicity is not deprivation. It is the strategic removal of friction.
The synthesis of all our sources really confirms that being debt-free is so much more than a financial figure. It is the solid, prepared starting line for a purposeful life. True, lasting freedom is a dynamic practice. It's built on intentional action, on identity reinforcement, and continuous alignment with your purpose. It's not just a static state of zero balance.
You now hold the pen to the next chapter of your life story. All the energy and resources that were previously consumed by debt management are now yours to command. The choice is yours. You can use that power to reinforce purposeful growth, invest in experiences that deepen your joy, and pursue your passions fearlessly. So we want to leave you with one final provocative thought, and it's drawn directly from the core transformation advice we covered today. Reflect deeply on this question. How will I use my freedom to create joy, purpose, and abundance today, not just tomorrow? Don't wait for the perfect market or the perfect moment. Take one concrete step right now as the very first action for your debt-free life. Automate a savings contribution, start one of the new habits we discussed, or simply conduct a 5-minute digital clutter cleanup. Your exciting, liberated life starts now.